that I can play the flight of the bumblebee because you have to hit incredibly fast in parts, and that's extremely hard for me because I don't really have wrists yet. Ron offered to buy me a 5-piece drum set. Money can't buy me love, obviously, but I asked if it would have zildjian cymbals. He said, "Whatever you want." And then he took my yo-yo off my desk and started to walk the dog with it. I know he just wanted to be friendly, but it made me incredibly angry. "Yo-yo, moi!" I told him, grabbing it back. What I really wanted to tell him was, "You're not my dad, and you never will be." Isn't it so weird how the number of dead people is increasing, even though the Earth stays the same size, so that one day there isn't going to be room to bury anyone anymore? For my 9th birthday last year, Grandma gave me a subscription to National Geographic, which she calls the National Geographic. She also gave me a white blazer, because I only wear white clothes, and it's too big to wear, so it will last me a long time. She also gave me Grandpa's camera, which I loved for 2 reasons. I asked why he didn't take it with him when he left her. She said, "Maybe he wanted you to have it." I said, "But I was negative 30 years old." She said, "Still." Anyway, the fascinating thing was that I read in National Geographic that there are more people alive now than have died in all of human history. In other words, if everyone wanted to play Hamlet at once, they couldn't because there aren't enough skulls. So, what about skyscrapers for dead people that were built down? They could be underneath the skyscrapers for living people that are built up. You could bury people 100 floors down, and a whole dead world could be underneath the living one. Sometimes I think it would be weird if there were a skyscraper that moved up and down while its elevator stayed in place. So if you wanted to go to the 95th floor, you just press the 95 button and the 95th floor would come to you. Also, that could be extremely useful because if you're on the 95th floor and a plane hits below you, the building could take you to the ground and everyone would be safe, even if you left your birdseed shirt at home that day. I've only been in a limousine twice ever. The first time was terrible, even though the limousine was wonderful. I'm not allowed to watch TV at home, and I'm not allowed to watch TV in limousines either, but it was still neat that there was a TV there. I asked if we could go by school so Toothpaste and the Minch could see me in a limousine. Mom said that school wasn't on the way, and we couldn't be late to the cemetery. "Why not?" I asked, which I actually thought was a good question, because if you think about it, why not? Even though I'm not anymore, I used to be an atheist, which means I didn't believe in things that couldn't be observed. I believed that once you're dead forever, and you don't feel anything, and you don't even dream. It's not that I believe in things that can't be observed now, because I don't. It's that I believe that things are extremely complicated. And anyway, it's not like we were actually burying him anyway. It was annoying me how Grandma kept touching me, so I climbed into the front seat and poked the driver's shoulder until he gave me some attention. "What is your designation?" I asked in a Stephen Hawking voice.
"Say what?"
"He wants to know your name," Grandma said from the back seat. He handed me his card. "Gerald Thompson, Sunshine Limousine, serving the 5 boroughs, 212-570-7249. I handed him my card and told him, "Greetings, Gerald. I am Oskar." He asked me why I was talking like that. I told him, "Oskar's CPU is a neural net processor, a learning computer. The more contact he has with humans, the more he learns." Gerald said, "Oh," and then he said,
"Kate."
I couldn't tell if he liked me or not, so I told him, "Your sunglasses are $100. He said,
$175.
"Do you know a lot of curse words?"
"Oh, I know a couple."
"I'm not allowed to use curse words."
"Bummer."
"What's bummer?"
"It's a bad thing."
"Do you know shit?"
"That's a curse, isn't it?"
"Not if you say shiitake." Gerald shook his head and cracked up a little, but not in the bad way, which is at me. And then I thought of something, so I said it. Actually, if limousines were extremely long, they wouldn't need drivers. You could just get in the back seat, walk through the limousine, and then get out of the front seat, which would be where you wanted to go. So in this situation, the front seat would be at the cemetery.
And I would be watching the game right now.
In the back seat, Mom was holding something in her purse. I could tell that she was squeezing it because I could see her arm muscles. Grandma was knitting white mittens, so I knew they were for me. Mom squeezed and Grandma knitted, and I told Gerald, I kicked a French chicken in his stomach once, because I wanted to make him crack up, because if I could make him crack up, my boots could be a little lighter. It said, "Ugh."
What is that?
It's a joke. Do you want to hear another, or have you already had an Get it? I crawled back because it's dangerous to drive and talk at the same time. Grandma started touching me again, which was annoying, even though I didn't want it to be. Mom said, Honey, did you give a copy of our apartment key to the mailman? I said, the mail person is a mail woman. She nodded, but not exactly at me, and she asked if I'd given the mail woman a key. I nodded yes, because I never used to lie to her before everything happened. Why did you do that? She asked. So I told her, Stan. Who? And I said, Stan, the doorman. Sometimes he runs around the corner for coffee, and I want to be sure all my packages get to me, so I thought, if Alicia... Who? The mail woman. If she had a key, she could leave things inside our door. But you can't give a key to a stranger. Fortunately, Alicia isn't a stranger. We have lots of valuable things in our apartment. Sometimes people who seem good end up being not as good as you might have hoped, you know? What if she had stolen your things? But she wouldn't. Well, did she give you a key to her apartment? Well, she was obviously mad at me, but I didn't know why. I hadn't done anything wrong. Or if I had, I didn't know what it was, and I definitely didn't mean to do it. I moved over to Grandma's side of the limousine and told Mom, why would I need a key to her apartment? She could tell that I was zipping up the sleeping bag of myself, and I could tell that she didn't really love me. I knew the truth, which was that if she could have chosen, it would have been my funeral we were driving to. Maybe you could check with me next time, okay? Don't be mad at me, I said. I'm not mad at you, she said. Not even a little? No. Do you still love me? It didn't seem like the perfect time to mention that I had already made copies of the key for the deliverer from Pizza Hut and the UPS person, and also the nice guys from Greenpeace, so they could leave me articles on manatees and other animals that are going extinct when Stan is getting coffee. I've never loved you more. Anyway, I'm not allowed to watch TV, although I am allowed to rent documentaries that are approved for me, and I can read anything I want. My favorite book is A Brief History of Time, even though I haven't actually finished it because the math is incredibly hard. One of my favorite parts is the beginning of the first chapter, where Stephen Hawking tells about a famous scientist who was giving a lecture about how the Earth orbits the Sun, and the Sun orbits the solar system and whatever. Then a woman in the back of the room raised her hand and said, What you have told us is rubbish. The world is really a flat plate supported on the back of a giant tortoise. So the scientist asked her what the tortoise was standing on, and she said, But it's turtles all the way down. I love that story because it shows how ignorant people can be. And also because I love tortoises. A few weeks after the worst day, I started writing lots of letters. It was one of the only things that made my boots lighter. One weird thing is that instead of using normal stamps, I used stamps from my collection, including valuable ones, which sometimes made me wonder if what I was really doing was trying to get rid of things. The first letter I wrote was to Stephen Hawking. I used a stamp of Alexander Graham Bell. Dear Stephen Hawking, can I please be your protege? Thanks, Oskar Schell. I thought he wasn't going to respond because he was such an amazing person and I was so normal, but then one day I came home from school and Stan handed me an envelope and said, You've got mail, in the AOL voice I taught him. I ran up the 105 stairs to our apartment and ran to my laboratory and went into my closet and turned on my flashlight and opened it. The letter inside was typed, obviously, because Stephen Hawking can't use his hands because he has amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Thank you for your letter. Because of the large volume of mail I receive, I am unable to write personal responses. Nevertheless, know that I read and save every letter with the hope of one day being able to give each the proper response it deserves. Until that day, Most sincerely, Steve.